Hey guys, Ted from Nerdarchy here, for nerds by nerds. With me are my esteemed colleagues,
Ryan.
Nate.
Dave.
And today we're going to talk about some terrible terrain, the forest of the elves or the forest of the not elves.
As the case may be.
As the case may be, is Matt Powell asked, what's the difference between a forest that doesn't have any elves living in it, or a forest inhabited by either high elves or wood elves?
And this is just going to be our take, just spitballing some ideas. We would see.
Absolutely.
Well, right off the bat, right there's precedent for this. If you go just to the Lord of the Rings movies, they actually do the two forests.
Yeah.
When they go into the Mirkwood, that's actually basically the Wild Elves.
Right.
And it kind of has a creepy feel to it, a dark and primordial feel that's creepy. But oddly enough, when they go into the High Elf forest,
it's all like serene and
very enchanted and
but it still has a creepy feel.
Yeah, it's a different. Well, just because elves are very aloof and alien, so it should feel like other realm-ish in a way.
Old.
Yeah.
Oh,
old and unknowable. Yeah, yourself to an ant. Imagine that sort of just total difference of rationale.
All right. So which one do we want to start off with? We'll take it one by one here.
Well, how about the no elf forest?
All right.
So we've killed all the elves, run them out of the forest.
Well, no, they're just not in this particular stand of trees or wooded
They're
forest
too good. They were too good for this forest.
Yeah, maybe.
It wasn't old enough.
Perhaps. So that is one thing to consider, is that there's not going to be a lot of old growth. There's not going to be massive trees. Probably a lot of underbrush in an area that is not old enough to, say, have an elven population that care about it.
And too close to the round ears, probably. Too close to comfort.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, too, a forest without elves isn't going to flourish the same way.
Right. I agree. I feel it's going to have more natural predators in it. It's going to have more. I don't want to just
unnatural predators as well,
or unnatural predators. I don't want to say it's got more wildlife, because that might not be appropriate. It's got more things that can actually attack you. More denizens, if you will.
I kind of feel like with the two different branches of elves, there's going to be two different philosophies. One is the wild elves, where they're like Indians. They live with the land, and they don't really take from it, but they probably don't really give to it either. So they're just kind of there. But then you have the high elves, who feel they're going to be arrogant and haughty and feel like they know what is best.
They would cultivate, all right. So
they would command it almost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's really go one by one and envision the wood elf forest and then the high elf, because we bounce back and forth. We're probably not going to get anywhere. So the wood elves, going with what you said, I see the typical treetop village of sort of these gangplank sort of thing, running in the trees, basically treetop huts or whatever.
A whole bunch of tree houses.
Yeah, either that, or they're just being nomadic in the land, or doing the sort of the bunch of treetop ramps type of thing.
And everything's built in harmony in the sense that it doesn't necessarily benefit the forest, but it doesn't harm it or take anything from it either. Right. It incorporates its natural beauty into what they've done.
Yeah, I would imagine if you're looking at actually using game terms, as much of the city would be hidden, even from people, in the trees, in the ground below, just looking up. So it
would be hard to distinguish it from the
and you use the term city. I don't see them having a city even. It would be a town or a hamlet, as far as population density. I see them living in small clannish groups, small populations being a part of it.
I think it's possible for it to be larger.
But it would be more like a city made out of sprawl, rather than, it's not there's not going to be a giant equivalent.
You don't have the apartment tree.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have the apartment tree. You have like, okay,
Is anybody baking cookies in the tree?
Yeah. That's a whole nother branch of elves.
yeah, I see it more as like a suburban sprawl of things.
Yeah, I
rather
could
than-
see this city, but like you said, it would be like a massive redwood forest that stretches on for miles and miles of acres and acres.
Yeah.
And it would be spread out.
And I also see like more like like natural traps, like the kind of traps a ranger would use or whatever, like maybe lots of like undergrowth, so like it hard to pass terrain sort of thing, because wood elves are faster than most people, so they're not going to be as slowed down
Right.
as others are going to be.
Yeah.
Well,
the
and they
branches.
also do the creepy elf thing of disappearing.
Disappearing in the wooded terrain too.
Yeah, it would look more like a natural forest that doesn't have any elven hand to it. But
I also feel like they'd be more deeply connected to the fauna as well. Almost like that Native American thing where they pay homage even to the deer that they're going to eat.
Mhm.
And they probably are. They, even though they may not be vegetarians, they probably are very light on the meat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just more like beasts, being around, like guardian beasts being a thing. Like, so the threats in the wood elf forest are going to probably be more natural. Like, I mean, they might actually have, say, a peace pact with like displacer beasts or something like that. You could have.
I would think it would be more things that are more natural than,
Like bears.
Yeah.
Things.
I mean, yes and no, because I mean they could respect the fact that, like, because in the fantasy world it's like,
But I don't know where the Displacer Beast falls in this edition, but I know in previous editions it was not like
They're always kind of malevolent and malicious.
Yeah, they're not really a natural creature that would be susceptible to those that are fey-like.
Like an owlbear. I think like an owlbear would be a better example, because it may be a foul-tempered animal like a wolverine,
It's still a natural
but it's
thing.
still more like an animal.
right. Well, I mean, it's kind of like being open to the fact that like nature is just indifferent. Like, it's not always like helpful. Sometimes it's the hurricane flood that like drowns you. You could be praying for rain one season, and the next season you're killed by the flood. So just like, yeah, the owlbear is probably a little better instance of it, like where they probably have a practice of avoidance or like trying to lure it elsewhere. And then I'd also see too, like your things like assassin vines and stuff like that. Like there might be some predatory plant life in their forest that they might even cultivate for defense.
They cultivate it.
They just know to ignore it. Because I see those societies as being more shamanistic and druidic, compared to like the high elves.
Right.
Well, I mean, their bump to wisdom means that they're going to be good druids, clerics.
Well, yeah, game mechanics aside, though, I just feel like their lifestyle choices are going to be geared more towards that anyway.
Right.
Which, I mean, the mechanics are probably influenced by, by
the literature and this and that. Yeah, absolutely.
So then we move on to high elves, and you were saying that the high elves, cultivate or command, the land and the things around them to be more akin to what they want or what they feel things should.
Yeah, they're more like sculptors and artisans, and they just work it.
Well, you know what? I feel like that's like the city is literally made out of trees that they've shaped with magic. I also see like just the difference in tree bark, being like that more like ash or white tree.
silvery.
Yeah. So it's like kind of eerie.
Or,
that way.
or even maybe like a circle of massive birches that have grown up and out, and almost forming like a platform where they've actually built a castle on it, or or a tower on it, or something like that.
But it's gonna be elegant, it's gonna be beautiful, and it's gonna be in your face about how beautiful it is. Because they, being, haughty and to a point arrogant, they think they're better than you, and
They'll be vegetarians, and they'll always parade around the fact that they are vegetarians in front of you. Like, because I'm just better. That's all. I mean, I actually care.
Yeah. Well, and like in Lord of the Rings, where their forest is rumored and considered to be haunted.
Yeah.
Where like the Mirkwood was just kind of like a bad place where
You just don't want to go there.
There's just bad things in there. because you're going to get eaten by a giant spider or something. Yeah. But in the High Elven, there's just going to be that aloof air, and they're probably going to be more xenophobic, and they're not going to take kindly to trespassers. Maybe they have milder ways of
deterring you,
like illusion magic or something like that.
Yeah, but as you get deeper and deeper, the deterrents are going to be more harsh.
Yeah. Almost like there was that graph of the monster layer, and then like figuring out what monsters would live around them, splintering off from there.
I know the article you're talking about.
Almost with that same idea, I almost feel like the High Elf would be like, the center plot of your map.
So you're saying High Elves are like aboleths?
They're like aboleths, absolutely. But then splintering off from there, like I would almost see ringing them would be the Wood Elves. There'd be other things because the High Elves being as secluded as possible, and I guess they can kind of sort of tolerate these community of Wood Elves.
Well, that would be interesting if you just had this massive forest and they were kind of like both in the same forest. Hey, maybe we should do that in our world, the center society is the High Elves, the nobles. And then their backwooder barbarian hillbilly cousins, the Wood Elves.
Yeah, they're the people that left the community for maybe for like shame, being shamed or just exploratory.
Their difference of opinions.
Philosophies, exactly. Yeah, sort of outcasting.
I actually like that idea.
So that works. But back to the High Elves and all that. I imagine like more like just unexplained magical phenomenon happening.
Fantastic things.
Maybe even some like
stables for their Pegasi
and maybe construct guardians, like magical constructs that are actually there roaming to attack, as opposed to like the beasts, as guard beings.
Well, I mean, they could even be shaped. I could see even their guardians, construct guardians, would be beautiful and possibly shaped of things of the wild. So one of the reasons why the people think the forest is haunted is because, well, the white ghost bear terrified them away, but it was actually a construct made to look like a bear, and it's like made out of alabaster or something like that.
Yeah.
And of course, in a high elven forest, there's got to be mist everywhere all the time. They got those fog machines going nonstop.
Yeah. Who do you think would have the?
It's an enchantment you put on a tree.
Yeah.
Fog machine.
Who do you think would have the deeper connection to like the Fey beings? Probably the High Elf. Like as far as like pixies and sprites.
I almost feel like
I would say the Wild Elves, the Wood Elves.
I would say connection wise, but Wood Elves, Wild Elves. But I think for being able to use them and negotiate with them, I think the High Elves would be, because there's always that like arcane bend, I feel, to the High Elves for everything they do.
Well, I feel like where your High Elves could still have this otherworldly feel to them. I feel like the Wood Elves would be more like of this world. Even and that might be one of the huge divergences between the two elves, is the fact that the Wood Elves have fully embraced this world and its fauna and flora, where the High Elves still see themselves as being of the Feywild.
Okay.
Right.
So
it's almost like,
from that point of view,
it's almost like the acculturating immigrant to the one that like very dearly clings to like the relics of their former homeland type of thing.
And the other thing is, the next step is if you actually introduce the eladrin into it, which I like. The DMG actually does the eladrin for you as another cast, and even for our Griffin campaign, I would absolutely consider adding them in and connecting like a 3-tier cast system.
Well, you do that if you basically you could do the thing eladrin ring, the ring of the High Elves, and then the ring of the Wood Elves. Like so, like the eladrin are the uber. Like if you're not an elf, we don't even look at you.
Yeah. So like you have the Wood Elves are like, yeah, we live here now. What? Then you have the High Elves. And
we live here, but we don't really like it all that much. It's all right.
Nah, I don't think so. Not with the Wood Elves. I think they've embraced it.
No, that's a High Elf. I'm talking.
Oh, yeah. The High Elves is like, yeah, we live here, but,
we make some changes.
Back home is still better. And then you have the eladrin are like, what, bitch?
The eladrin are like, this place reeks, and it hurts my eyes because it's so ugly.
Yeah.
I got some ideas to toss around for actual world building.
And actually, too, because there was that one Fey concept I had come up with. Basically, I was tinkering with the idea of a deity, a lawful good aligned deity, but also because the warlock bond of chains made me think of this. That like a lawful good deity that also embraces like slavery. Because like when you're like the warlock bond of chains, like you're enslaving another creature.
Right.
Like that's totally what you're doing.
This is feeling really off topic, right?
No, I mean,
Just
but it's totally going to be a Fey thing. But like maybe that's something that eladrin are like. There's an order, and we're at the top of it.
Right.
Yeah, and then like everything else is like splintering down.
Well,
Know your place.
You could even do a Fey court at the center of that 3-tier cast, and they actually reside on the world.
Yeah. Like so, I mean that deity is totally about the natural order, and it sucks for you if you're not in the higher pecking order. Respect it. Yeah. So.
All right, so
Forest, elves. I think we covered it.
That's what I was gonna say. Did we cover the forest? Was it
For the trees, we covered the forest for the trees, my friend.
okay?
And the elves. For the elves, maybe.
Only if they're baking cookies.
So,
Only Matt Powell can decide now.
That's right.
Matt, let us know. Did we answer your question?
Did we paled it?
So
We better end this before the bad puns keep
More
rolling out.
punishment. Yeah.
With that, click like, comment, subscribe, even share.
Check us out on nerdarchy.com.
The Facebook.
Yes, the Facebook, the subreddit, Nerdarchy.
And with that, until next time,
Stay nerdy.